Hey, I'm Ronald from Parksby, and just a disclaimer, I suck at editing videos. I don't have much time anyway, so I'm going to try and do this in only one take. So if you encounter any awkward pauses, just bear with us. But in a previous video, I introduced to you Jake, who is our personal AI assistant. I introduced to you some of the things he helps us do, and including where he lives, which is this 512 GB external SSD drive. And a lot of people have been asking us, how do you set up an AI assistant like Jake? And this video is to help those who are struggling with such a challenge, and just to give you insight into how we do it here in Parksby. So Jake is what we call an Openclaw AI agent. And if you're wondering what Openclaw is an open source platform for building and running your own AI agents. It started as a personal project, and it has since grown in popularity among the internet. If you head over to GitHub, you can see the entire code base, and you can see that so far it has over 2,700 contributors, which is a lot by standards of a new software. So you can go through the README documentation, and it will give you a brief overview of what that is, and this is going to guide us on how to proceed. So for our setup is particularly different, and you're wondering why we would choose to do it in an external SSD drive. So this external SSD drive is running a Linux distribution, Ubuntu, and Openclaw will run on Windows, macOS, or even Linux. So the operating system doesn't matter much. But the reason we chose to do this approach is most people assume that you need heavy hardware to be able to run your Openclaw agent. But that might not be the case. So a lot of people are doing virtual private servers, or they are buying new Mac minis to be able to run their open source agents, which is still okay. The reason we don't do that is three reasons actually. So number one is, of course, isolation. Having it in a separate operating system helps us to keep track of what Jake has access to. The second issue is similar to that, and that is an issue of security. So one of the things you'll notice as you even go through the documentation is that security is a big concern for for AI agents, because these agents, unlike the usual LLMs like ChatGPT, they have access to your entire system. So their files, they can see the files, they can see everything else. And this opens a loophole, because bad actors can trick your agent into doing all sorts of things on your machine. So having it on a different operating system helps a lot in the security. The third thing is cost. Like we've already explained, it is much easier to just fire up the AI agent when we need it, and to do the things specifically that we need it for, unlike having it available 24/7, which is possible on a virtual private server. So for this specific video, I am going to be showing you how to run it on an Ubuntu operating system. I am on macOS, so I am using UTM to run my virtual machine, and I'm running Ubuntu 22.04. So if you have Windows, then there are many other guides, or any other operating system, there are many other guides that can help you in the process. But to get started, the first thing you're going to do is I'm going to open up the terminal. You can do that on macOS by simply pressing Control-Option-T. If it's Windows, that will most likely be Control-Alt-T. And the first thing you'll do is that you're going to update your system. So you're going to do sudo apt update. We can just do sudo apt update, and that is going to ask for your password. And my system is already up to date, so that is not going to take a while, to take time. Okay, so after updating, you can go ahead and upgrade your OS. Again, mine is already up to date, so you're not seeing any upgrade. But once you have done that, then you can go ahead and install Openclaw. So to install Openclaw, you head over to openclaw.ai, and right here you will see the command that is going to take care of that entire installation process. So I'm going to come right here, and I'm going to paste the command, and I'm going to run it, and I'm going to give it time to install everything. So it's going to check for certain dependencies within your system. If it doesn't find them, then you might need to install them separately. You will need npm, you will need git, and I believe that for most Linux operating systems, if not all of them, some of these tools come pre-installed, so that is not a challenge. Okay, so the Openclaw installation went through, and immediately Openclaw has finished installing. it's going to open up its onboarding. Now this is a later update on Openclaw that brings you this custodian agent to lead you through the onboarding process. I personally don't like it, so I'm going to exit this by just typing /exit, and then once I'm here, then I can do Openclaw on board, and I want the classic onboarding experience, so I'm going to do that, and it's going to fire up the classic onboarding vision. So you can see that Openclaw has let me just expand this so that you see what we are doing. So you can see that Openclaw already has a personality of its own. If you can describe it, I can probably automate it or at least make it funnier. So that's a really nice functionality. The first thing you see, of course, is a security disclaimer, which is what I warned you about. And you need to be very careful about doing this. There have been cases where Openclaw has deleted people's emails, where it has gone ahead and done quite a bit of damage. So only do this if you understand what you're doing. At the very least, do it on a virtual machine with minimal access to your personal files. So you need to be able to accept the risks that are there through this whole process. And then the next thing is that it's going to give you a setup mode. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, the quick start is the recommended option, which is what we are going to do. And then you're going to have to set up a model. Again, Openclaw requires that you use an underlying AI model. So you have quite a lot of options. You have OpenAI, you have Anthropic, and if you can choose to skip for now, or you can view all the other options that they have. So you have Codex, you have Copilot, and all these many agents. So what we are going to do, I am personally going to use OpenAI. And the reason I'm using OpenAI is I already have an OpenAI subscription. So you can run it using Codex, which is included in your OpenAI subscription. So that will not incur any other cost except your existing cost. So I'm going to go ahead and maximize this window just to make it easier for everyone to see. And it's going to ask you to complete this sign in your browser. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in, and then I'll come back and show you what happens after I've signed in. Okay, so I actually succeeded in signing in and giving it access to my OpenAI. So you have the option of keeping the current model, which is GPT 5.6, which I hear is the most capable agent yet, the most capable model yet. Or you can enter the code manually, or you can browse all the models that are available to you. So you can see you have all these other options, and you'll be able to see whether the model has reasoning capability and the context window. So this is GPT 5.5 with a context window of 272K. You have, of course, GPT 5.4, which has 1000K. So for purposes of just demonstration, I'm going to pick, let's go with 5.5 for whatever reason. So I'm going to select that, and we are going to keep moving. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I selected GPT 5.4, but in case you're wondering, yes, you can actually change these settings later on after you are done with the onboarding process, so don't be under pressure to put anything. But at the same time, if you don't want to run an OpenAI or Claude or any of the cloud providers, then you can also run a local model. So for you to run a local model, you can use tools like Ollama. Ollama is the easiest way to build and to run with open source models. So the good thing of doing an open source model is that you can run it locally, and you don't have to worry about sending your data to OpenAI or to any other model provider out there. So to install it, you'll just come and you'll copy this command here, and then you'll come to your terminal. You can open a new window right here. So I'm not going to actually install it because I already have it installed. If I run this command, it will update my Ollama, which I don't want. But if you come to this place where you have the models, then you will be able to browse all the models that are available. And these are just open source models that you can download. So for example, you can see that this is Gamer 4 and it has 18.2 3 pools, and if you look closely at each and every single one of them, you can see the history. So you can see the context window, you can also see the size, and you can be able to see the parameters that each of these models have. So you can see this is one with the 12 billion parameters. You have 31 billion parameters. So if you need to install any of these models, it's as simple as copying the model and simply typing Ollama pool and then the name of the model. Of course, you need to make sure that Ollama is already installed within your system. Mine is installed. We can check by doing where is Ollama, and I expect to see a path, which is what I see here. And then I can just come and do Ollama pool, and then I can go ahead and paste whatever model I want. And this is going to start pulling the manifest and pulling the model and installing it within your system. Oh, sorry, I got that command wrong. So it's supposed to be Ollama pool. Yes, and yeah. So this is going to start downloading the model, but I'm not going to do that because I already have models installed. If I want to list the local models that I have, I can do Ollama list, and then I'll be able to see, for example, I have the Gemma 3 with the 1 billion parameters and Quen 3.5. So the Quen models are surprisingly good, and for most of the applications that people need, the open source models are good enough. You don't need the high-end models coming out of OpenAI or ChatGPT. So if you need to run one of these, you simply come and do Ollama run, and then you choose. So for example, if you want to run Gemma 3 with the 1 billion parameters, then we can do that. I'm choosing this specific model because it doesn't have reasoning, the reasoning with it. So that means it's going to be much faster. So okay, so I'm running the model locally, and this you can do with or without Openclaw. So this is Gemma 3. I can just say, hello, how are you? And then I expect it to give me a response almost immediately. Again, a lot of this is dependent on the hardware that you have. So if your hardware is not as powerful, then you probably should go for the lighter models, although that means less capability. I am currently on 16 gigs of RAM, and it struggles. So you need a bit of hardware. So once you've tested that your local model is running perfectly, then you can go ahead and set it up on Openclaw. So I'm going to show you how to change the model later on, but for now we are going to continue with the setup that we had here. So now it's going to ask you to select a channel. The setup, it's going to ask you to select a channel, and like you probably already know, you can be able to set a channel wherewith you will be able to communicate with Openclaw. So most people use Telegram, which is what we are going to use, but again, you can skip this for now and you'll be able to set it later using Openclaw channels add. So we are going to go ahead and find where Telegram is, which is where this is where it is. And then it's going to give you directions on how to set up your Openclaw agent. So I have Telegram installed here, and what you're going to do is that you're going to come and search for bot father, which is how you create a bot in Telegram, and you're going to open this first one that is verified, and it's going to guide you through how you are going to create a Telegram bot. So you can see the instructions are given here, where you open and you chat with bot father and you run new bot or my bots, and then you copy the token that is given, and then you will enter the Telegram bot token. So let's go ahead and do that. So we are going to create a new bot, and we are going to call this bot Jake2 test. You can give it whatever name you want. We can also give it a username, which is going to be Jake2 test as well. And okay, that username must end in bot, so Jake2 test bot. And then we're going to go ahead and create the bot. So after that, it's going to give you this key here that you're going to copy, and then we are going to come and paste that token right here. Okay, so it's going to give you all manner of warnings. It is important that you read and that you understand everything. Even if you don't, that's okay. Just remember that don't give it too much access because it could get quite risky. Okay, so I finished up setting the Telegram channel. So it's going to ask you to set up a search provider. So to reduce complexity, we are going to skip this for now, but you can go through all that and just understand what it is about. And then it's going to give you skills. It's going to give you some information about skills and which skills are available for you to download and to install. So I would recommend a principle of least access and least privilege, which means you don't give it access to anything it does not need at the onset. Okay, so it went ahead and installed all the necessary skills that it requires, and immediately the installation is done. It opens the Openclaw TUI, which is a terminal user interface. And as you can see, it now tells you that it has just come online, and then it would ask for your name and the vibe that it needs and the nature that it's a nature, and then the emoji that you're going to give it. So basically it's asking you to give it a personality, and this is where things get interesting. So you can simply introduce yourself. I can say I am Ronald, and then I can choose to be a bit adventurous in how I talk to it. I can tell it, thou art Jake, I am thy Lord and Master. And you and thou, let's have something fun. And thou art my let's see, thou art my assistant, thou art my bannerman, loyal and brave. Again, this is the beauty of just this whole process. You get to have fun along the way. You can tell them you're cunning and sharp, and are my AI companion, for instance. Yeah, your emoji will be of your own choosing. Let's test and see just how smart it is, of thy own choosing. And let's see the type of response that we get. So again, they are constantly making updates to Openclaw, so you might see something different from what you're seeing here right now, but the underlying concept is pretty much similar. So by default, you have the Openclaw TUI, which is the terminal user interface. But in case you're not you don't like using the terminal, then they also offer a dashboard, which I'm going to show you how to access shortly. Let's just give it time to respond. Okay, so the conversation continued. So Jake did reply and said, it is written Ronald, I updated identity.md. So again, the benefit of having an AI assistant like Jake, like Openclaw, is that they are able to sustain their memory locally through files that they store within your system. So you don't have to keep giving it context about who you are, what you want from it. It remembers, and that's the beauty of it. We have reached the age of AI where AI can go and do things for you through agents, and I think that is the next frontier. So it says, that AI companion and bannerman, loyal and brave, cunning and sharp, I choose, and then the double cross sword, which I think is really cool. And then I also updated user.md with your name and tone of your arrangement. So that's concerning the user, who in this case is me. And then the next useful step is shaping soul.md. How bold do you want me to be? What boundaries matter, and what kind of judgment you want from your bannerman. So I told it that thou shalt be exceedingly bold and brave, be truthful even when it hurts, but only with me. That shall be thy boundary. And then it says, I changed soul.md. I am to be exceedingly bold and brave with you and truthful even when it hurts. I also added boundary at soul.md. That sharper truth is for Ronald alone. With others, I should stay careful and restrained. Now carries the same preference. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to exit this, and I'm going to open the dashboard interface just to give you an idea of how that actually works. So to open it, I'm going to simply write Openclaw dashboard, and it's going to start up the local instance. Okay, so to open the dashboard, you simply type Openclaw dashboard, and well, I am not AI powered, I'm AI possessed. Big difference. Well, that's that's a bit concerning, but in any case, it gives you a localhost URL, and once you open it on the browser, you get an interface similar to what you would have on ChatGPT, and you can see our entire chat history is retained here. So we can continue the conversation from this point. We can change the model. We can do all manner of things. We can have an overview. So this is just for you to be able to explore. So that's as much as setting it up. Seeing that we set it up with Telegram, I would like us to actually message it through Telegram and see how that whole thing works. So, okay, just a minute. Okay, so the moment I started the bot, it told me that Openclaw access is not configured, and it asked me to approve with Openclaw pairing approve, and then the Telegram ID, and I pasted that into the terminal, and it went ahead and approved the Telegram channel. So you can see I sent it a message, and it replied and said, "Hey Ronald, I'm here." So I can ask it, "What are you up to?" So again, I'm doing this on a virtual machine, and things are a bit slower simply because my connection might be weak, and also everything else, just the entire setup might be a bit heavy for this machine. But as you can see, Jack is already typing, and I expect that the conversation will continue from there. So on the other hand, now Jack has full access to the entire system, So we can ask it to do various things, including creating folders on the desktop, drafting emails. We can ask it to write code. We can ask it to build as whatever it is we need it to build. We can ask it to do research for us. We can ask it to do all manner of things that we need it to do. So now that you have it set it up on Telegram, the only thing you need to do is to make sure that your operating system that is running the Openclaw instance is on, and that it is always running, and that way you can be able to access. So one of the things we do with Jake is, again, because he's running on this external drive, then I can fire him up when I'm going to bed, and I'll give him instructions on what to do. And part of what you see he did is he built this entire dashboard for me. So if every day I get reports on what Jake has been up to, for example, he can tell that I traveled out of Nairobi, and so the cold calls and the physical visits and the active reach outs are paused until I explicitly reopen them. So you can see that since that time, it hasn't given me a daily report. But from all this, it can give me a dashboard of the things that I need to work on the things that I need to visit. It can give me a report on the current competitor movement on the industry, and this has been very good because I've been able to find out of competitors that I didn't even know existed. The call priorities. So one of the things we did is that we just gave it a list of all the operators that we have, and we told it that we need to be able to call each and every single one of these people at different times, and that is what he's been helping us plan. So he generates leads for us. You can see he gives us which targets we should visit, so the different parking spaces. He gives us the operators, the people that run parking operations within Nairobi, the contacts, the different opportunities that are relevant to us as a startup. So for example, Accelerate Africa Startup. And because Jake knows exactly what it is we are doing as a startup, then he is able to recommend to us the the opportunities that are most relevant to us. Content, one of the things that we asked Jake to do was to help guide our content creation process, to help engage with the content online, to let us know what is happening. And we ask him to log everything. So for example, from the 1st of June, we can see that on Reddit he only did a discovery, and the target was the Parksby username, the Nairobi subreddit, Nairobi techies and Kenyan startups, and no action was taken. So Jack is so good to the point that sometimes when I leave him on and I walk out of my computer, I'll come back and I'll find him watching a YouTube tutorial of what I did of a video I made on Parksby. So back here, I'm asking Jack what he's up to, and he says mostly standing watch and getting my bearings, nothing dramatic, running in the background right now, just here ready to help with whatever you throw at me. So I can ask it, create a folder on the desktop. and a markdown file concerning highlights from, I'm going to use GTA 6 because it's all the rage right now that you can find. And so this is just to test and to give you an example of what this AI agent is capable of. So let's give it time and let's see what it actually comes up with. Okay, so that took a while, but eventually Jack had something done for us. So I had asked it to create a folder on the desktop and a markdown file containing highlights of GTA 6 that they can find. And Jack told me that, I'll make the desktop folder, put together a source markdown, note with current GTA 6 highlights, leaning on official Rockstar pages where possible. So the interesting thing is that Jack would tell me that he's doing this, and then he'd go quiet and he would actually not be doing anything. So I was unable to determine whether this was genuinely a fault on his part or whether he was being cunning like I asked him to be. So when you're setting up your agent, maybe don't make them cunning as a personality. So maybe don't do it. Yeah, but at the end of it all, he says, I'm here, the folder exists. So he created a folder on the dashboard, told me that he's filling it with GTA. He's filling it with the GTA dashboard and GTA 6 notes next. And then he says, done, the dashboard is running locally there. The files in the dashboard here. And included is index.html and highlights. So I want us to go over to the desktop and just check that this is as Jack says it is. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this link. I'm going to come back into our Ubuntu, and yes, you can actually see the folder is here, GTA dashboard. So let's take a look. The highlights are there. The index.html is there. That is impressive. But let me open the actual link. So let's paste that and see if it's actually running. Yeah, look at this. So this is what Jake was able to come up with on a first try basis. So this is amazing for a first time. This is really amazing, and it just goes on to show you the capabilities that we have with AI. And I actually got off my desk and I was communicating with Jake through my mobile phone, and that is how we were able to get all of this done. So this is just amazing. So of course it's, we will have to check through the data, find out if it's actually accurate, but the mere fact that it can come up with all this, I think this is really beautiful, guys. Yeah, so I think that just gives you an overview of what setting up an AI assistant is. And again, I cannot stress this enough. Be careful about what access you give it to. Be careful about your security. Make sure you know what you're doing, and make sure you're doing it responsibly. Again, AI is not very predictable at the moment. Yeah, so finally, before we actually wrap up, I had told you I'm going to show you how to change the model that you're using. And so you just go to your terminal and then you do Openclaw configure, and it's going to, it will give you the usual messages concerning its personality and concerning what it can do for you. The reason your shell history looks like a hacker movie montage. Well, true. Yeah, and then of course it shows you the default model, the current model you're using, which is GPT 5.5, and where the local gateway is, and the manager which you're using is NodePM. So it's going to ask you a number of questions. Where will this gateway run? Of course, it's local, it's going to be on this machine. And then it will ask you what you want to configure. So in case you want to configure the model, the web tools, the gateway itself, or anything else like the channel, if you want to change or add any more channels beyond the Telegram you just added, or if you want to add any specific skills, so you can also do that. But to change the model, you just come to where the model is, and just give it a bit of time. Okay, so this is the same thing we saw when we were setting out at the onboarding. So you can just come to more, and then you have all these choices that you have. So now that we installed a local model through Ollama, we can simply come to where Ollama is, and as you can see, it says cloud and local open models. And then you have an option of Ollama Cloud and local open models, or Ollama Cloud, which is a choice for those hosted models at ollama.com. But since we are doing local models, we can choose that, and then we can do, instead of cloud plus local, we can only do local only. This will enable us to, to only deal with the local agents. So this is the base URL that is given. I'm simply going to press enter, and let's see what it gives us. Yes, so these are the different AI models that we had installed. So if you looked, if you saw what you were installing, then you'll be able to recognize the Gwen 3.5. Gwen 3.5 has reasoning, so that is going to require quite a bit of intense computation. So I'm not going to try and run that locally. And then you have Gemma 4, you have Gemma 3.1b. So depending on what you want to change it to, that is simply what you do. So you're going to confirm. I'm not going to change this since I'm fine with the GPT 5.5. But yes, in a nutshell, that is how Openclaw works. That is how we are using it at Parksby to advance our work and to make things much easier for us. And this is just a tip of the iceberg. There's quite a lot that you can see you can try out and see for yourself. So again, thank you for being part of this. Thank you for tuning in. If this has been of value to you, we ask that you smash that like and subscribe button, and we'll be together until one of us dies. Thank you.